Good afternoon, everybody. So once again, I am Zach. I am the product owner here at Club Runner, and with me, as always, it seems this weekend is Shawn, and I've got Shawn backing me up. He's going to be helping out with chat and any additional questions and Q&A and stuff like that. And so there is a lot to cover, so I am quite literally going to jump right in. So moving right on. So just to kind of give you guys a quick overview of our session, we're going to be covering the RI integration system in the general sense, an overview of it, how it works, how it interacts with Club Runner and Rotary International, how you guys turn those integrations on at both My Rotary and Club Runner, how you guys handle adding, transferring, and terminating members, how to use our compare and sync tools, how you can use our executive compare and sync tools and our integration archives, and then we will have a few items. We'll have just a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. So, put plainly, what is RI integration? So, Rotary International integration allows your club's information to be linked to Rotary International and the information changed in Club Runner be sent up automatically. So this eliminates a lot of double entry that clubs in some cases may still be used to, where you have to go into Club Runner and you have to add your member and then you have to go to Rotary and repeat those same changes, or vice versa. And the great thing about this is once that integration service is enabled, you making a change in Club Runner, adding that club officer, adding a new member, changing their details should sync right up to Rotary International. So as a brief overview of all the things that we actually do integrate and support, so adding your members, terminating your members, and changing their status. So moving them from active to honorary or honorary to active, and even reactivating old members who have come and or have left and are returning. Individual member information such as their address and contact details, so their email address, their name, their phone number, their gender, all of those fields, they're marked and they will sync up to Rotary when there are changes made in Club Runner. The 6 positions that Rotary International tracks, so these are the 6 club officers that Rotary tracks, and these are the only 6 officers that Rotary tracks every year. That's not to say that your district or club doesn't have other officers, but these are the only ones that Rotary are keeping tabs on and to some extent providing functionality through My Rotary. So that is your current year president, secretary and treasurer, your membership chair and foundation chair, and your executive secretary / director if clubs have to choose, if you guys have them. Not all clubs do. We definitely do see it with some of the larger clubs, but it is an additional position that can receive executive functionality at Rotary and in some cases in Club Runner as well. Lastly, all of your club information such as your mailing address, your phone number, your email address, contact information, your website, and your meeting details. So when and where you guys meet. So I'm going to go ahead and have Mickey push that poll for us while I'm continuing to work on all of these, going through some of our slides here. And don't worry, once we get through a few of these slides, we're going to be jumping right into the more interactive portion of our demo. So I'm going to go ahead and move towards getting started on this. So what we're going to do, Rotary International actually, all of the integration options for Rotary, like the initial turn on, are at Rotary International, and only a current year, as in, so right now that'd be your 2021 officers, only they can go into My Rotary and make those changes. And if for any reason you guys are having an issue with that, you can go to rotary.org/C DS, that's Charlie David Sam, and what that will do is that website will bring up a quick link so you guys can put in your district number and get your dedicated Rotary contact people. So once again, that address is rotary.org/CDS, and hopefully we can get that posted in the chat for everybody as well. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over to our PDF guide that is from My Rotary. This is actually a guide that Rotary has created for club officers. And because it's the most up to date, they actually have it updated for the new Rotary International, the new My Rotary website and services that they have enabled. I'm going to go ahead and get started with that. Bear with me just one more moment here. All right. I'm going to go ahead and resume. So I've got our PDF open, and this is the PDF directly from the My Rotary website. So if you go and log into My Rotary, and when you're in there, this guide was available to us. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just a little bit so you guys can see this just a little bit better. Maybe just a bit too big here, but hopefully that is good. So the first thing is you will need to be registered for My Rotary. So you're going to go to myrotary.org. You're going to go and click on that sign in button, and you're going to sign in. And once you're signed in, you can go to home and then My Club. And then we're just going to keep scrolling down here. And then once you're in that area, to choose the vendor, you'll have an agreement that you have to agree to before you can do that. You can go ahead under Club Management Systems and click Edit. And it will give you the list to add your vendors. So when you click that big Add Vendor button, it'll present you with a list of the vendors that are available. One of those will absolutely be Club Runner, and then you set the access level. Now, there are 2 access levels, and we do strongly encourage the view and edit access level. This means that not only can Club Runner read the information at Rotary International, but we can make changes on it. And if you want things like adding your new members or terminating them to be synced up to Rotary when they happen, you will have to have that view and edit access. If you have the view only access or the read only access, as we call it in Club Runner, it means that we can look at data at Rotary, but we won't be able to make any changes to it. So if you made a change at My Rotary, you could still come back into Club Runner and sync that change through our tools or potentially repeat it as required. But you would have more work. So we would definitely encourage the full view and edit option. You also have to certify that you agree to the terms and conditions of the data integration agreement. Definitely give that a read, and once you are done, click the checkbox, click I agree, and you will now see that Club Runner or whatever other vendor you guys have had set up. In this case, it's definitely going to be Club Runner. You can do that. Now, if your district or another service does, another organization that you work with wants access to that information, you can add a second only vendor, but we're not going to cover too much of that. So once you've added Club Runner in that view and edit access, within a couple hours, it can take up to 24 hours in some cases, but usually within just a few hours, you'll be able to come back into Club Runner and turn on the integration. And the one other thing I just want to touch on real quickly with the integration, right now the integration service only supports club level data. So that means changes that you make about your club, but for our districts, it's only the club data. But it doesn't matter if you're using your club's website or your district's website. Once the integration service is enabled, it will work regardless. So now that we are good and done with what we needed from this guide, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into our integration window here. And the one thing I do just want to note before I jump too much further down here is this is not our regular environment. This is a special environment that we use for testing and functionality. All of the member information you guys are going to see here is absolutely fake. We are not showing anyone's real information. This is all test data that was prepared just for our presentation here today. So we're here on our integration page. So what you would have done is you would have gone to your Club Runner website or your district website. You would have logged in and accessed the members area. And we do have a club version here. So at the club level, we click the RI integration tab and the RI integration settings. And I know that those accesses are also on the dashboard, but for time's sake, I don't have time to navigate over there. But looking at this page, we can see some of the settings. So you can see that it definitely gives you some generalized instructions here, and I know some of these have changed, so we're gonna have to get that updated. But if we were ready, we could turn on the integration. Now, in this case, you can see the integration was disabled just a little bit earlier this morning, but if the integration had never been enabled, that box would simply not be there, but it'll tell you the last time the integration was enabled or disabled and by whom. For any reason, if you guys see the word Club Runner shows up there, so it says by Club Runner, that means our integration service actually detected that your integration was no longer active and automatically turned it off. Just to kind of cover that, because I've actually had that question a few times more recently. Usually that is caused by like a district merger or a club merger where your club ID changes. And if that happens for any reason, you guys let us know and we'll get you set up and right back on running. So I'm going to go ahead and check this checkbox because I agree to the terms and conditions and I want to enable our integration services. So the integration services are now on, and we can also view the status of this integration on the right-hand side here. So we are in the read and update status. So that means, just like we talked about from the guide, that Club Runner can read your data at Rotary International and make changes to it. So this, again, lets us make those changes like adding members, terminating members, all of the good things that you want to happen. So now if we scroll down a little bit further, we have our club RI integration privacy. I would definitely encourage everyone here today, if you know your club has the integration service enabled and you're in that sort of position, go review these settings because oftentimes people will turn it on and that will be the last time they look at them. And the important thing to note about the privacy option is if the club chooses to opt out of any of these options, that is the last word on it. So if, for example, you disallow home addresses, no one in the club can send their home address to Rotary International. And of course, if that's a decision that you guys came together and made as a club, that is your prerogative. But if it's been a while since you looked at it, you might want to come in here and check some of these settings because individual members can always opt out of these individual options if they're enabled. But once you as a club choose to disable them, the individual members cannot override that choice. They can override the choice if you allow to share it though. So we definitely encourage all of these settings on. And one small item is if you do check a setting that has been off, that lets the gate open, but it doesn't send any of the old data. So if you guys were ever in a case where you had something like birthdays set not to be allowed in the past, turning it on means as you continue to add birthdays in Club Runner or update members' birthdays, those birthdays will start to go to Rotary. And I'll touch on it shortly when we get to some of our tools, how you guys can push and pull that information between Club Runner and Rotary International. Now, in the event that some issue can't be processed successfully by the integration service, we will send a notice to the current year secretary by default. You can select which club officer position will receive these notices, and when I click in here, it'll show me any of the current year officers that we have set up, in addition to any of our members. And choosing one of those members overrides that, and we'll keep that, it basically will stay there until such time you guys, excuse me, got a little tongue tied, until such time you guys to choose to change it. So for your integration contact, by default, it'll always be set to your current year club secretary, and they will get those notices. And now for any reason, if you're having you get those notices and you're having problems or you don't know what to do, absolutely read over the information in that guide. And if you have questions, reply to those emails. They'll come back to us and we'll help you guys work through those issues. So we've now covered all of the integration settings, and I want to touch on one more thing again to, sorry, just one second. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just a little bit, and I hope you guys are able to see that better. And okay, sorry, kind of lost my train of thought there. So the one other thing I've wanted to touch on, and I've kind of been repeating it, the data flow between Club Runner and Rotary is automatic in only one direction. When you guys make changes in Club Runner, those changes are automatically sent to Rotary based on your privacy options, member privacy options, and the data that was entered. If you made that similar change directly at My Rotary, that won't automatically flow back into customer, but as I've been kind of repeating, and the reason we repeat this so much is we really want to cement how the service works, is that we have tools that we can pull that information back in and look at it some more. So we have, so just again, this was the integration settings. We can see the status, we can see the fields that are opted in for the members, and we can see the integration contact, who it is set to, and in this case, it's going to be our current year secretary. There's some additional backups on that. We actually spell that out here. So for some reason, if you guys don't have your secretary reported the current year, we'll look backwards, we'll look forwards, and we'll look to some other officers. And for any reason, if all else fails, we will contact your website contact. So moving right along, I've been teasing this feature all conference long, is our new transfer member system. So bringing it up here, I've already gone to the page, but you would be able to get to this page by clicking at the club level on your membership and your members list, same at the district. And on that page, there will be a new add transferring member button. And when you do that, it comes up to this transfer search. And this transfer search is very similar to the functionality that's available in My Rotary now. This functionality is only available to your club's officer. So at the club level, that's going to be level 50 or greater, access level 50 or greater. So that includes your administrators. They do not specifically have to be a Rotary recognized officer, just an individual that you've assigned that access level to who can log in and use your club. Or if you're using it on the district's website, any of the members of the club that have been appointed as officers will have access to this. So we can search by 3 values here. We can search by a member's Rotary ID. This is great. If you have the member's Rotary ID because they're transferring from another club, or maybe they're a Rotaractor, or maybe they they've made donations to the Rotary Foundation, but they're not yet a member, but they have their ID. This is the best thing that you can use, because once you have their ID, I'm going to go ahead and hit search on the ID that I've already got pre-filled in there, and I'm going to go ahead and hit search. And under almost all cases, you should only ever get back a single match on an individual Rotary search. And here you can see that it found a member of a different club in our area, Mississauga Dixie, and that she is a past member. And what this is really good that indicates to us is that she is not she doesn't have any active memberships with any other clubs. So we know that if we add her into our club, we won't have any problems. So I'm going to go ahead and do a name and country search as well real quick. So I'm going to use that same number. So, in that situation where they did not provide you their Rotary ID, but they've given you their full first and last name, you can absolutely search us there. And so I also know that this member is very specifically in Canada. So from that drop-down list, I am going to find Canada in here. There we are. And I'm going to go ahead and hit search. All right, so the page has reloaded, and it wasn't able to find our Geneva Harris. I don't know why that is not working right at this exact moment, but sometimes little things still happen. I'm going to switch back to that Rotary ID because we were able to find her without a problem there. I've got Geneva back here. So I am going to go ahead and hit add member. So this is one of the really nice things about our new system is, so once you have found that member record that you want, you can hit add member. And what this does is it takes the information we've gotten back from Rotary and any of the additional information that you've input. So for example, if you did an email search and you found that member by matching their email address will also be populated into the page. Oh, apparently I spelled her name wrong, so that was absolutely my fault. Thank you for catching that for me. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Margaret. So I must have spelled her name wrong. Regardless though, moving right forward. So now we're on our transferring member form. This is very similar to our add member form, but what you can see is we've actually locked out, and I think you guys can see this Rotary member field here is slightly darkened. And if I go in here, I can highlight it, I can copy it, but I can't edit it, I can't change it. Basically, for the fields that we know would absolutely cause a problem if they were changed or had any superfluous information in it, we've locked you out of changing those. This helps to ensure that your integration will go through successfully. So what we're going to do is we're just going to finish walking through here. So we've got the type of membership. We have 3 types of membership, or we have 4 total membership types available in Club Runner for all of our Rotary clubs. Active satellite, and active corporate. For the purposes of RI integration, Rotary will see all of those membership types as an active member, but the satellite and corporate membership types help you keep track of how, the types of members that they are to the club. And we also have honorary members. So for any reason, if you guys are not aware, you can only be an active member in 1 club at a time, but you can be an honorary member in many clubs or in some cases none. But both of those options are there. So I'm just going to choose active satellite. I am not going to list a sponsor for her, but we do have sponsor functionality. And the reason we actually changed this to a sponsor dropdown was another one of those items that we wanted to make sure integration events completed successfully. And for Rotary, we really need to make sure that we have the correct sponsors information so we can pass that with the integration request. And of course, if the person who actually is sponsoring this member isn't in your list or is a non-member, you guys can absolutely fill that in after the fact. And our nice little tooltip here actually does tell you that. Whenever you guys see these little gray question blocks, they contain more information for you. We always try and include helpful tips and hints wherever we think it might be useful. So moving down the page, we have the date that the member joined the club. So I am going to use today's date. If they had a title like doctor, honorable professor, etc., we could enter that here. If we had any additional information about them, including like their suffix, which is a list that Rotary supports, we could enter their email address. So I am going to jharris, or H-A-I-R, Harris at sync.semgrid.net. Geneva is a woman, and that's how she prefers to be identified. And for her address, we'll go ahead and use our Club Runner office address. We can leave Stratford. So the nice thing here is that this actually grabbed her home address. I know, because I'm the one who set up her test data, but I'm going to change this to her work. But because Rotary had some of that information for her home address, it did give us that very limited address. But you see the postal code and their actual street address did not come over. Go ahead and put in a postal code there. And then for her Club Runner account, she'll automatically, the login name and password will be automatically generated. And you can, of course, change that if you want to any other values. And then, of course, if you had a custom email template that you wanted to send to the member, you could do that as well. For any reason, if you don't enter the emails just simply won't be sent to them. So let's just take a very quick look and review over this real quick. So we have a new active member. They're joining the club as of today. We do want this to go to Rotary International. And just to touch on this real quick, let's say for some reason you had already added them at Rotary International and you wanted to manually add them in Club Runner, you would definitely want to choose this do not report option. But in this case, we absolutely do want to report it. There would definitely be an easier way to import this member into your club if they were already in there at Rotary, and we'll touch on that shortly when we get to the compare and synchronize tools. So I'm all good and happy with all of the information that I've entered here, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Add Member. So in this case, the system, we're not only waiting for just Club Runner, we're waiting for Rotary to give us that positive response or get it queued. And it usually doesn't take too long, but it can definitely take a minute or two. All right, so while this member is being pushed over into our database, and I will come back to this, I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to, of course, right as soon as I say something, it completes. So the member has been sent into our Club Runner database and has been integrated with Rotary, and they are now listed in there. And we didn't have to check Rotary or anything else like that because we transferred the member. So we're also going to take a look at the Add New Member form here. And I have this form also pre-filled out with a completely different member's information. So in this case, I do have the members' details. So I have, I have their Rotary ID in this case. I don't want to use the transfer member form for some reason, or maybe I forgot that I can use the transfer member form. But when you put members' information in, the same thing should happen, that we will search Rotary International and attempt to find them. Now, in this case, I actually know very specifically that I have misspelled this gentleman's name. So I'm going to hope that the system is going to catch it today and tell me that this Rotary ID does not match this name. We've got the work address already entered, and we can see that his details. So just like the transfer member form, the new member form works exactly the same way, with the exception that because we didn't find that member's information, we can edit these fields freely. So the Rotary member number, the name and information that is collected is all freeform now, because we didn't use that search to find them in the first place. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit add member here. And so what is happening right now, since I used the regular add member form, we proactively searched Rotary International to try and locate members based on their information. So in this case, we actually found Don. We had the right Rotary ID for him, but we had the wrong last name. For some reason, if I believed beyond a shadow of a doubt that this was a different Don Lafayette, I could add him as a new member. But in this case, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is the right Don that we're looking for, and I have typoed their name. So when I hit OK here, a secondary pop-up is going to show up, and it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to proceed with this changed information? So you can see the first name and last name have been updated to match the member and their Rotary ID. So if I am happy with this, I can go ahead and hit add member. But let's say if there was something wrong, like right now I can see that the login name didn't update, I can hit cancel. I can hit cancel again. And see, Don's name did actually get updated here. Let's see, Lafayette, and it'll get updated there. And now I'm gonna hit add member again. So now all the details that we have about this member are matching. And if I hit add member one more time, it's gonna check the Rotary International database again. But in this case, oh, it still found him. We're gonna take that. We're gonna hit OK. We're gonna see and confirm the information, and we're gonna go ahead and hit add member. All right, so we got his information into the system here, and he is all good. Though it looks like for some reason my edit didn't get saved, and that's very odd. I'll have to definitely look into that. But moving along to one of our next items that we wanted to show off here is our executives and directors. So when you come into Club Runner and you have that integration service enabled, you can also report your executives. And just like I had mentioned earlier, the 6 positions that Rotary tracks we have set up here, and we can see that our president isn't entered, our secretary is, our treasurer is not, and we have some gaps in our officers for this year. So I'm going to attempt to click here and click edit for our club's executive secretary, and I'm going to select a member who is in the club, and I'm going to go ahead and select Kimberly Smith here. And when I hit save, with the integration service enabled, the change has been made, and the service, assuming there's nothing wrong with Kimberly's profile and she has all of, everything's good with her, she will be reported up to Rotary as the club's officer. So that's for all of it, and I know there's a really popular position that clubs like to. I know it's a required position. All clubs have your president-elect, but for Rotary International, the only way they will see them as the president for the next year is to make sure that you go to your next year. So if you want to report your upcoming president, your currently elected president for your next Rotary year, you can very quickly. Actually, we'll do 2 things. First, I want to keep this same list of positions here, so I'm going to use carry over to next year. The really nice thing about the executive carryover is that if you had any committees set up that were yearly, they would also get carried over at the same time, which is a great way to help make sure that your committees, at least from their initial state, stay in the correct state that you want each year. So now I'm going to go ahead and head to that next year. And here we can see the president, the secretary, the treasurer. We can see all these positions. We can see that this is 2021. So if I wanted to report our president for next year, I can click edit, find the dropdown, and pick a member. Now, obviously, you guys would know who your president is and would not be picking at random, but I am. I know how much, that's a very important position. So Moving right along, another field, a set of fields that we integrate is the club information fields. So for example, your club details like the name of your club and the date you chartered and your motto, none of these fields are integrated. These are all just for us to have and be displayed on your club's website. But the contact information is. So if we click edit on contact info and we pop up in here, we have a mailing address. So this is your club's physical mailing address. So if you guys have a PO box where you want information or Rotary details sent to you, you'd want to put this in here. We also have some of the contact information. So if your club's website is a Club Runner website, we could definitely put that in here, portal.clubrunner.ca or rotarytoronto.com or whatever your actual website is. Club email is a field that Rotary takes, and I just want to add extra special note about this. All emails in Rotary International's database must be unique, must. So no two entity, like no two pieces of data in the Rotary database can share the same email address. So if you guys have like an info at your club's domain or a special email box, or even you set up a Gmail or Hotmail account to take those inquiries, that should be the club's email and it cannot be reused by a member, and vice versa. If one of your club members is using that special inbox for their personal email address, or their Rotary email address rather, you won't be able to reuse that with the club email without a little bit of like you'll have to get it taken out of their profile and then put into someone else's profile. If you guys do run into any issues with that, rotary.org/CDS, that is always going to be your best bet for fixing anything on Rotary International's end. And those guys are great. We see and talk to them all the time, and they're usually at the conferences, and they're a fantastic set of people. I can't say enough good things about them. So anytime you guys are having issues with something like an email in use, get in touch with rotary.org/CDS and they will help you guys work that out. So in addition to the contact info, we also have your meetings, and I know most of you guys are very familiar with this. So we currently have the date and time, and these are required by Rotary International. Every meeting address that Rotary wants to store has to have a date and time, even if that time is infrequent. And if you have any specific comments about when you're meeting weeks, like let's say you meet every other Monday or every third Monday or the first 2 Mondays of the month, you'll want to make sure that information is set into the meeting comments. Both of these things will be, the meeting time and date syncs, meeting comment will be syncing in the near future. If your club does meet online, as we covered in some of our earlier sessions, you can add a meeting URL and any private club and district member details. So you can enter that in there. So if you had a Zoom link or WebEx or what have you, you could put that information in there. Neither the meeting URL nor the private details will be synced with Rotary International. It's not supported. They do not have those fields at those times. But I do want to touch on meeting location. So if your club is still, meeting virtually, we still strongly encourage you guys to have a meeting location, because that's the only way to be found on the Club Finder. You can simply change your address to something like online or use your club's physical address, but make sure that you put in the location that we meet online, see our website for more details. Put that information in there so that when you're found on the Rotary Club Finder because someone's looking to join a meeting, they can find that information. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit cancel here. The last setting over here is hiding members' photos from the public, and that has nothing to do with our integration service. So I am going to keep moving right along here. So I'm gonna move into some of our tools. Now I can't show off the tools fully today because of our test environment. It just isn't possible to fully show them off today, and I do apologize for that. But this is our compare and synchronize page. And what this page does is it takes all the member information, or all the members, their first name, their last name, their Rotary ID, and compares it to the active information at Rotary International. So if you had things like a member who was terminated in Rotary but not Club Runner, or terminated at Rotary but not in Club Runner, you'd be able to get a handle on all that information. Additionally, this is that place that I've been talking about where you can push and pull individual member information between both Club Runner and Rotary International. So if I can't show it off too much here because it isn't working right now in our special test environment that we have. But if I clicked compare here, and I guess I can go ahead and do that, you'll be able to see it. It just won't have any information showing between both of the screens. But when you push compare, what it does is it actually goes and does a deep dive. Oh, look at that. It started working again. I'm very happy to see that. I was doing some last minute testing and I wasn't getting all of the comparison data back. So right now our comparisons are working. So in this case, we actually have a member who is exactly equal in all of the fields that both systems track. Oh, actually that's not true. Their email address is not in there. So we can use that to go over. So you can either push or pull information from Club Runner and Rotary, and most fields support pushing data in both directions. For example, if the member's first name was wrong in Club Runner but right at Rotary International or vice versa, there'd be a little arrow here that we could click to control the direction of the data, in that we are sending data to Rotary or we are pulling data from Rotary International. And if we, the one field I do want to note that Club Runner has no possibility of modifying is when the member joined the club and when the member joined Rotary. For any reason, if you guys feel that this information is incorrect at Rotary or it needs to be corrected, this is a very special case where a current year club officer can email data, D-A-T-A, at rotary.org with the member's full name, Rotary ID, and the data that does need to be corrected. So, let's say the member joined not August 21st, 2020, but they joined last year, 2019. Something prevented them from getting in. That would be a great time to send an email to data@rotary.org as a club officer and work with them to get that changed. Same thing for like if just as an example of something else you could contact data for, another date option. Let's say you terminated a member late. They were supposed to be terminated in January, but you didn't get to it till June. If you want to get that reflected, that's the same thing. Your club officer would email the data corrections team at data@rotary.org and then provide the information, the member's full name, their Rotary ID, and the data that needs to be corrected. So I'm going to go ahead and attempt to show off the pushing or pulling information. So if this email I know is correct. So if this email was wrong, but the email that Rotary had, or let's say I just want to overwrite the information that's in Club Runner, I can click that arrow. So the color of the arrow and the direction of the arrow indicates which way the data is going to flow. And we have a nice little icon key here down at the bottom. So when it's an equal sign, as you guys can see, that means the data matches between both points. If it's orange, it's going to push data to Rotary International. If it is blue, it will pull data from Rotary International. And we also have a gray one, which means it's read-only data, which are these date, club, and Rotary join date, but because they're currently in sync and they match, they're not showing the read-only status. So let's go ahead and attempt to push Becky's email up to Rotary. Or sorry, Barnett. So we went ahead and attempt to synchronize it. Now it says it's scheduled for integration in the next 24 hours. And what this does is anytime you make any change in Club Runner, it actually puts it in a queue to be processed. The queue usually does it very quickly, but in some cases it can take longer than normal. It really just depends on the volume of changes that are being done. So I'm gonna go ahead and attempt to refresh this page and see if that change went through. And another place we actually have to look at that change are going to be our integration logs, which we'll be getting to in just a moment here. So it looks like it's still scheduled, which means it hasn't gone through yet, but that's okay. I know it'll either go through, or if it doesn't, it'll send us an email and let us know that it didn't go through, and then we can take our correct actions and get it corrected. So I'm going to move to our executive compare and synchronize. So much like the member compare and synchronize, this lets us push and or pull information between both systems. So right now I can actually see that Peter has been defined as the club president at Rotary International, but is not in Club Runner for whatever reason. So here's another case where you can see that the data, the arrow is blue. I'm going to go ahead and check it for club president, and we're going to attempt to synchronize that. And there it went. So it quite literally slurped up his information from Rotary and put him right in. And if I go back to our executives and directors page, we can now see that Peter is actually defined as the president. So that was updated in Club Runner using the information at Rotary International. So we're going to head back to that executive compare and synchronize page. And we can also try and push Peter here. It looks like the sync succeeded, at least in that it has processed the request. So just like our email request, it's going to sit in the queue until it's processed. And again, like I've mentioned, most of those queues are processed pretty quickly, but they can have a couple minutes before it's processed. But usually within 5 to 10 minutes, any of the changes that you have attempted have gone through, or have been processed rather. So I'm going to show our last little section here in our RI integration. This is the member integration archive. So what this page is quite literally a list of all the things that we've been trying to do today during this webinar. Pushing executives up to Rotary International, pulling executives from Rotary International into Club Runner, and any of the other various changes we made. So I'm going to go ahead and hit show to refresh it so we can pull up some new ones here. And you guys can see that many of the changes that we were doing have already gone through, even some things that I was doing before we got to our training session today. So you can see all of those went through. Peter was skipped due to club privacy settings earlier. I actually can tell you that's because the integration was off, or in a case that it was actually a privacy option to be opted out. And so you can see all of the members in your club, any of the members that we have quite literally any history for, even past members who are no longer in the system. We do keep some logs about them just to track the Rotary integration events. We have the integration events based on change. So, who changed the website, updated a termination date, changed a membership type, address, birthday, etc. You can set the date range for any period of time. You can even go back quite sufficiently. So if you wanted to look at everything for the calendar year, you can very quickly do that and it'll come up. And if you wanted to see, just a specific member, you can also filter off of that information. So there we go. And you can actually see here that earlier today, there was a problem processing our request. So that's a very specific example of what would happen if there's an integration error at Rotary. What would happen is you guys, well, today, since we just did this, tomorrow, the club secretary will get an email. And when they get that email, if they don't know what to do, they can reply to that and we will help them work through that. There is also a club update archive, and this is very specifically for club information. So if we changed our website address, email address, meeting information, etc., all of that will be logged here. So those are all of our big tools, our settings, all the really important thing that I think you guys need to know about the RI integration settings. And I'm very sure we got a handful of good question and answers. Shawn, you have anything for me there?
Yes, yeah, we do have quite a few questions here. So let's start with this one from Barry. So Barry is asking if you change a join date in Club Runner, does it flow up to Rotary International?
So I touched on that a little bit during our talks, but no. And this is a restriction from Rotary's end. They do not allow any, like the only opportunity that the club has to inform Rotary when a member joined the club is on the day that they have joined the club. So after that, for any reason, if you need a member's join date corrected, we will have to go ahead and contact data at rotary.org with the member's name, Rotary ID, and details to go ahead and get that backdated. So if you had, in that specific case, you'd want to email data at rotary.org and let them know, oh, John didn't join on September 1st, he joined July 1st, and here is his date of correction. Only club officers are able to actually contact data at rotary.org, so that's going to be the current year club officers.
Thank you very much, Zach. So we do have another question here. So can a member be honorary in one club and active in a second club?
Absolutely. Members, for Rotary purposes, as long as a member only has a single active club, they can be an honorary member in as many other clubs as they would like to, or clubs would like to have that member honorary in their clubs.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, and we have a question here from John. If a member is a member of a satellite club, is the person registered with the parent club or the satellite club?
That's a bit tricky, but it's kind of both. But at least for the purposes of Club Runner and the integration, those satellite club members are members of their parent club. So the parent clubs hold their membership, and I know there's some additional features at My Rotary that I wouldn't be able to talk about because we don't have any extra access to My Rotary that you guys don't have. But if there's anything on the My Rotary side, I would definitely refer you over to CDS. So rotary.org/CDS. And that they should be able to help you guys more with that question in greater detail.
Okay, and we did have a few different questions in the Q&A box about transferring members, specifically what happens if the previous club has not terminated the member? How can they transfer the member?
So that's a great question. So let me see. I believe I have a member already set up for this exact scenario that we were talking about. So with our new transfer member system, you guys should be able to see that hopefully ahead of time. And I've got a couple member IDs here that I can iterate through until we hit a member here. But effectively what happens is if a member hasn't yet been released from their former club, you can still add them in Club Runner, but that membership will not be recognized at Rotary International until such time that the clubs have kind of gone over there's a bit of a dispute process. And I'm going to be speaking a little bit from memory here. Let's see, I'm going to try one more quick search here. O-U-I-S-K-E-M-P. I don't have his Rotary ID for some reason. Aha, here we go. Lewis Kemp. So you guys can see right away, if this was a member transferring to your club, you would see that this member does have an active relationship with a different club. So you can still add him to your club's information, obviously because this member is telling you that they want to join your club. You can still get them in your records, but the transfer will not be successful at Rotary. And to get that resolved, you as a club officer will actually need to contact the data corrections team. They have a dispute resolution policy for this, and the last time I was told about it, my understanding was effectively the club who wants to add the member contacts data@rotary.org, and they let them know that they're looking to transfer a member, but they haven't been released from their last club. Providing Rotary with this information, they will reach out to the club and offer them an opportunity to basically either accept or reject the member's transfer. There's a window. I want to say it's 30 days. It's been a little while, so I would definitely ask data about what those specific numbers. But effectively, either the club that is losing the member gets an opportunity to either let them know a reason that they shouldn't be allowed to leave the club, or yes, that they can be. And if there is no response, Rotary, in my understanding, releases the member, at which point they will help get it corrected into your club. But that is all going through data@rotary.org to help do that.
Awesome. Thank you for the details, Zach. We do have a few questions, I guess, about common pitfalls or issues that people run into.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we can run through a few of those. So the first one that I see here is duplicate email found on RI. So could you let us know what that means and how we can go about resolving that issue?
Absolutely. So in most cases, a duplicate email found at Rotary means that member already has that email on their profile, and for some reason, we also cannot update it. There are certain flags at Rotary on members' email addresses. For example, if it is the email address that you use to sign into My Rotary, we can't touch that email in any way, shape, or form. No one's allowed to. In fact, in some cases, the only person allowed to change that email address is the Rotarian themselves. So if you run into that issue, you can always contact data@rotary.org. That's another one that they can help you out with, or CDS, rotary.org/CDS as well would be able to help you guys out. The other option is that email address is in use on someone else's profile. And basically what that means is if that's the case, you can't use that email address. To elaborate that on a little bit further, we know sometimes spouses will share email addresses, and I think I've touched on this a couple times, especially with this question. You really can't share email addresses. So if you want to make sure those emails or Rotary emails are coming to both of those members, you'd want to help them get another email address. And of course, in this day and age, there are very many free email providers that all provide wonderful services, and there are also great paid providers if you're not comfortable with a free one.
Okay, and another common question is, what do we do? There's the error message, cannot terminate member in the past. Could you let us know what that means as well?
Absolutely. So cannot terminate in the past, and I will be honest that we definitely need to improve that, and I'm going to put that little note in that to work on that as soon as our conference is over. Effectively, what that error message is telling you is that the member is already terminated at Rotary, and we cannot terminate them a second time. So that once a member's been terminated at Rotary, we can't terminate them again. So we give you an error message. We also, I believe, show the actual date that the member was already terminated as well in the details.
Okay, and then another common one is when a club is trying to add or terminate a member, and it says they cannot do that if the join date or termination date is past the 30 days. So why is that, and how can they work around that?
So this is actually a Rotary requirement. Rotary requires all member additions be within the last 30 days. So today's date and within the last 30 days, you cannot do any future dated additions. And terminations, they actually do support both 30 days forward and 30 days back, but it is still within that window. So for any reason, if you've missed that window there 31 days ago or 2 months ago or et cetera, basically you'll need to contact. So again, that's going to be your club officer, one of them emailing data@rotary.org with the member's first and last name, their Rotary ID, and their requested termination day.
Okay, and if we go to the, if a club goes to the compare and synchronize page and notices that a member is listed under members missing in Club Runner and members missing at Rotary International, what does that indicate?
So in most cases, that actually indicates that a member's Rotary ID is simply not in their profile. And we have actually done a lot to try and avoid that, but every now and again, it still, unfortunately, it happens. Either name mismatches, which are, our transfer member service is really trying to help, or some other, there are various reasons why. Maybe when you imported the members or you first signed up, they never had their Rotary ID, and very recently, only as when you either fixed it or you got that data issue sorted out. So let's head over to the RI integration tab, and we will actually run a compare real quick, and we'll see what we can find here. So if we scroll down here, we actually have Marcy Bosworth set up, and you can see them right now in both lists. Now, again, we can see that this ID is missing here, and that's kind of like our first little red flag. Okay, the ID is missing, and they're missing at Rotary. And if we look at the members missing in Club Runner, we see the exact same member, and in this case, I know that is their ID. So we're going to go ahead and copy that ID. We're going to click on the member's name. It's going to pull their profile up. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the Rotary. I'm going to go ahead and hit edit, and I'm going to go ahead and put their Rotary ID in there. And as soon as I hit save, it has now recorded the Rotary ID into the system, and I'm going to head back to the compare and synchronize page. And we can see McCree Bosworth has now been fixed. They're back in our members in sync. So just to kind of elaborate, if for any reason you guys ever see notices in the updates archives or those emails that you receive that incorrect member ID, that is usually because the member ID is missing or it doesn't match enough of the details at Rotary.
Okay, and then staying on the compare and synchronize page, we do have some questions about seeing a member listed as not at Rotary International, so members missing in Rotary, but when they go to Rotary, they see the member there. So could that indicate possibly a duplicate record in Club Runner? What could be causing that?
That absolutely could. Now, I definitely don't have that scenario set up for us here, but actually, it looks like I kind of do here. So here's another case of member type mismatches. We actually have 2 records for Don. I don't know why. Maybe this was the first record we tried to add for him earlier and we misspelled his name, so we did it again. And for some reason, this Don is in the X member category, and the system doesn't think that these 2 records are right. Now, the real secret here is that this is only really an issue for that X member record, and it's almost a non-issue, but we can very quickly fix this by going into that member's profile and taking out their Rotary ID, the exact opposite of what we actually just did. So we want to disconnect the linkage between this X member profile and that other X member profile. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the Rotary member number field. I'm going to move it over to the membership field just so I have a backup and I know what it was for any reason if it, I needed to come back in and fix that in the future. And now when we head back to compare and synchronize, we should see that that has been sorted. Awesome. And something actually I just want to touch on, since I know we have a couple issues in that members update archive. I don't have an email in front of me, but when you guys do get those emails, let's say you have let's say the issue is either already resolved or it's a non-issue whatsoever, like you have no interest in dealing with it because it is of no concern to you, or you already solved it, like, oh, maybe the member's email change went through and it was bad because the member already had it or it was a duplicate email. When you come into the members update archive, you may see items that say mark as resolved. And in the email that you get whenever an issue, like whenever you do have an integration issue, there will be a link in that email that says, click here to mark this item as resolved and stop receiving notifications about it. If you want to get ahead of that so you don't get the email at all, and you know that there was an event, like you did something incorrectly, or you already know you have an integration event that failed, you can come right into the archive, click mark on resolve, and enter the appropriate comment. When you hit save, it'll go ahead and basically mark it that it has already been resolved. So now you will not get any more emails about that, and it will shut it all off. And of course, for the future, you'll always be able to click on the details and see who added that comment and what their comment was. Now, if you do use the mark this item as resolved from the email, it will quite literally say in the comments, marked as resolved over email or something to that extent.
Perfect. And we have another question here that actually we get frequently. What's the difference between the member ID, so the Rotary member ID, and the badge ID?
Oh, so the badge number is actually the number that is just used for members' badges. And if your club has the barcode module, we do use that for generating barcode IDs for them. But the member number is specifically for their Rotary International ID. And I think I saw a message a little bit earlier about being able to turn on the integration through the district. And I kind of wanted to touch on that very quickly. If your club uses just your district's website, your district can help enable and disable your integration services. But if your club is a subscriber, only the club will be able to make major changes. So basically turning on or off the integration and changing some of the privacy settings. I know there was, I think that question was from Barry.
Perfect. And we have another question here about duplicate records, but this time through Rotary International. So if a club notices that the member is duplicated at Rotary and they have 2 IDs, what should they do to fix that?
So for some reason, if you do have someone who has 2 IDs, this is going to be another great time to contact the Rotary data corrections team. For any reason, if someone, or let's say you have 2 IDs for them, or you've entered them twice, or maybe a year later, the guy's like, hey, I'm supposed to have a ton of Paul Harris Fellow and other stuff. What happened? And you find out that he does have another ID. You can, once again, contact data@rotary.org to let them know, hey, I've got John Smith and I've got 2 Rotary IDs for him, and I believe it's all for him. And with our new transfer member search, you guys could actually go double check that. But contact data@rotary.org. Give them all the information you have, the member's full name, the IDs you have for them, and let them know that you believe that this is a duplicated ID, and they will definitely do their due diligence, confirm or deny that for you. And if there's any steps like merging the members' Rotary IDs together, they'll let you know.
Perfect. And we do have another question specifically through the district. Why can't districts opt in for integration on the club's behalf?
So I think I just touched on that a little bit, but effectively, Club Runner, like when a club is a subscriber, we treat them as their own entity, and it's basically, it's up to them how they turn on or modify those integration events. Let's see, I am also taking a look at that Q&A and seeing if there's anything interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
There's a question here. Someone used the compare page to push information up to Rotary, but they set the arrow in the wrong direction.
So they basically pulled it from Club Runner.
Yeah, so how would they fix that?
So you could go directly into the member's profile and input the correct information, so it'll go back up to Rotary International. And you could even check the member update archive. There should be an event of you pushing that data, or sorry, it was pulling it into Club Runner, correct? It was overwriting Club Runner?
Yes.
So in that case, because we pulled it directly from Rotary, there will not be a record of it. But if you don't know what the correct information is, confirm with the member and work to update their profile. I see a question here about the relationship between Club Runner at the club level and the district level. So the club and the district actually use the same member information. There isn't I make a change at the club and it goes up to the district and then it goes to Rotary. The club and district are looking at the exact same information. So if your club makes a change, the district will see that change almost instantaneously, and then Rotary will be notified of those changes. So that is to say, like, you making a change when your club and district is on Club Runner is seen on the Club Runner system pretty much instantaneously, and then it will be sent up to Rotary to be processed.
Perfect. And there was another question here. What if the member is added in Club Runner, but not at Rotary International?
All right, so for some reason, if you put your member in and let's say you choose do not add or something like you choose not to add it for some reason, after the fact using the compare and synchronize page, if that member was still in Club Runner and their join date is within the last 30 days, you can very easily, let's take a look at that compare and sync page. I think, no, maybe there's not any members in that state. Nope, they're not. So if we had a member that was missing in Club Runner, it would be showing down here at the bottom. And if we hit add to RI and their club date was in the last 30 days, it will automatically just attempt to resynchronize that event again. It'll basically push a new member right up to Rotary International. And if it succeeds, that'll be great. And if it doesn't, it'll let you know why. Now, for any reason, when you are outside of that 30-day range, you're still going to want to put the member within the 30-day range. So you'll want to go into the Club Runner profile. You'll want to set their club join date within the last 30 days, and then you can return to the compare and sync page to re-add that member. Once the member gets added successfully at Rotary, at that point, if you need to backdate their date of addition into the club, once again, you're going to contact data@rotary.org. And you're going to let them know that member's first and last name, their Rotary ID, and the date that needs to be corrected.
Okay, and we have a question about terminating a member. So if a member has passed away and they terminate the member as deceased, does the club lose all of their information?
So no, all of your ex-members are stored in the inactive members list in Club Runner. So if we go to members and then we go to member list, and I know the text got a lot bigger on us there, and we check out the inactive members list, you will see any of the members you are terminated and any of their statuses. Now, I don't have any members in the deceased status, but the deceased status in Club Runner is an extra special status. It actually automatically opts them out of a lot of things, like we won't send emails to profiles in that state. And there's like, that's the biggest thing. Like we very aggressively go out of our way to do our absolute darndest to make sure emails don't go to members who are marked in that status. And even if they are an ex-member, and let's say you learn later that that unfortunate event has happened, you can come into their profile using that change status here. And you can change their inactive membership type. So I can set an individual to deceased if that is required. That won't go to Rotary. And if you did want to let Rotary know that you know a specific Rotarian has passed on, you can email the data corrections team, and they will help you get that member updated.
Okay, and we have a question here from Sandra about, I guess, the number of administrators. So she was just asking what your suggestion would be for a number of administrators for data entry. She mentioned that if there's too many people, it might cause more errors. So what would be your take on that?
So, I mean, as a general rule of like generalized housekeeping, the less cooks in the kitchen or the less people who have the keys to the kingdom to make those changes, probably the better. But what works for your club is the most important. So, you know, if you're a club of 20 members, I would definitely suggest at least, you know, your club officers. So 3 to 5 to 6 people having access to make those changes in the system. And of course, members can log in and change their own information, and all of that data will also be integrated whenever they're making their own changes. So the important thing I'd say, with regardless of how many administrators you choose to have at any, you know, different various access levels, is just making sure everybody knows what their role is and what they're expected to carry out, and clearly defined duties. So, you know, if John does membership entry, you know, Sally shouldn't come in and put all of those members in before John gets to it, unless they've talked about it. That way they reduce the, you know, duplication of work, and they're spending the most efficient amount of time to move things forward.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Zach. I'm just going through the other questions here.
Actually, I have a really good question for Pat Lowell. So, and I think it quite literally just snuck in here as you were looking. So Pat is asking to clarify what issues to contact CDS versus data@rotary.org. And that's actually a really great question. So basically, if it is a data correction, merging a member's profile, you can't get them, they're not, you can't get them added. Basically, changing data that is already set in stone, that is where you want to contact data@rotary.org. And if for any reason you're not sure, I would actually encourage you to use rotary.org/CDS first, because their team will definitely still help you with those data corrections. But the data corrections team are mostly process data changes first and foremost.
Okay. I think we've got through all of the questions here, Zach.
Awesome. At least all of the big ones. I'm
Yes.
very sure there's many more great questions we don't really have time to touch on. So I think we got all the really, oh, actually I have one more from Cecile that I think is a good one. Cecile asked, what if a deceased member is incorrectly marked as such, or you mark a member that way? And for that would be another good reason to contact data. So if for some reason you terminate a member incorrectly, or even into an incorrect status, like they have passed away, you'd want to get in touch with data@rotary.org and let them know about that incorrect change. So just to really cement Pat's question here, if you absolutely know the data that needs to be changed, do that. You know, contact data. But for any reason, if you're not absolutely concrete, rotary.org/CDS, those guys are all great. If you've been to Rotary conventions, you've probably run into one or two of them. So before we go ahead and wrap up for the day, I just want to give a shout out to really focus on our KB guides. If you guys head over to clubrunnersupport.com. Oh, wow, this is That was my fault. I should not have clicked on that link. I see something I need to update. Make sure you guys check out the clubrunnersupport.com website. There are lots of great guides and information over here. One of the things we do, we have a dedicated section just for Rotary International integration, an overview, agreements, club integration, club executives, district integration. It covers all of these things. And I also know we have a webinar that covers more of the interactive portions in much greater detail in our recorded webinars. I think it's mine. I think it's mine. So thank you guys very much for joining us today. Our next session is going to be at 3 p.m. with Michael and the Club Runner app. Since we are kind of wrapping up, I'm going to throw it back over to our Master's of Ceremony, Mickey, to take it away.